I watched Noah sitting alone at his 13th birthday party, holding a single cupcake while Marcus stood surrounded by friends and gifts. My older son had everything a teenager could want. My younger son had nothing but that sad little dessert and a forced smile. In that moment, my heart shattered into pieces. I did not know how to put back together. I had told myself I was being a good father to both of them. I thought loving them equally meant everything was fine. I was wrong about so many things. Before I tell you how everything fell apart and how I fought to put it back together, I need to know where you are watching from. Drop a comment below, and let me know if this story feels familiar to you. If you have ever felt invisible in your own family, or if you have seen someone you love, go through this, hit that like button, and subscribe to this channel. What I am about to share might be hard to hear, but I promise you it gets better. The journey was painful, but it taught me what it really means to be a father. Let us go. 2 years before that terrible birthday party, my family still lived under one roof. Diane and I had been married for 15 years. Marcus was 14, Noah was 11, and we occupied a comfortable house in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. I worked in construction, putting in long hours to keep everything stable. On the surface, we looked like any other American family trying to make it work. But looking back now, the signs were always there. I just did not want to see them. Dinner time painted the clearest picture. Diane would cook every evening, and we would gather around our wooden table in the kitchen. Marcus always got the largest portion, sitting at the head spot like some kind of prince. Noah received a smaller plate and sat near the counter almost like an afterthought. At the time, I rationalized it away. Marcus was going through his growth spurt. Teenagers needed more food. That made sense, right? But something about the way Noah looked down at his plate, the way his shoulders curled inward, made my stomach twist with unease. One Tuesday evening, Noah approached me with his science textbook clutched against his chest. His eyes held this hopeful light that I recognize now as desperation for attention. He asked if I could help him with his science project about renewable energy. Before I could answer, Diane cut in from across the room. She told me Marcus needed me first, because his debate competition was the next day. I hesitated, looking between my two sons. Marcus was already walking toward his room, expecting me to follow. Noah stood there, that light in his eyes dimming. I made the wrong choice. I went with Marcus. When I glanced back, Noah had already disappeared into his room. The door closed so quietly I barely heard it. That silence should have told me everything. Marcus turned 14 that September, and Diane went all out. She threw a massive party with 30 guests, hired a disc jockey who played music so loud our neighbors complained, and decorated our backyard like some celebrity event. Marcus unwrapped gift after gift. A brand new laptop, designer clothes with tags that made me wince, a high-end racing bicycle that cost more than my truck payment. I calculated the expenses later that night. We had spent close to $2,500 on one birthday party. 2 months later, Noah turned 11. I expected something similar, maybe scaled down, but still special. Instead, Diane sat me down and said, "We had already spent too much that quarter. We needed to be practical." The party consisted of just our immediate family, no friends. No decorations beyond a single banner Diane grabbed from the dollar store. Noah opened his gifts with that same quiet smile, a plain t-shirt. 3 books from the thrift store, their pages yellowed and covers bent. I felt sick watching him pretend to be grateful. After everyone went to bed, I drove to the electronics store and bought a used game console. Nothing fancy, but something Noah could enjoy. When I gave it to him the next morning, his face lit up brighter than I had seen in months. Diane saw us in the living room, and her expression turned cold. She accused me of spoiling him. I remember staring at her confused. How was a $60 used console spoiling him when we had just dropped thousands on Marcus? That night, lying in bed, I felt this growing unease in my chest. I told myself Diane was just being practical. Noah did not ask for much anyway. Maybe he really was fine with less. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I just was not ready to face it yet. The marriage collapsed 6 months later. Diane and I had been arguing about money, about priorities, About everything, really. Then I discovered text messages between her and Trevor, a man from her office. The betrayal cut deep, but honestly, by that point, we had been drifting apart for years. We filed for divorce after 17 years together. The custody arrangement gave Diane primary custody. I got the boys on weekends and holidays. I moved into a small 3-bedroom apartment on the east side of town, 20 minutes from their school. Every month I sent Diane $1,200 in child support money that was supposed to help both boys equally. 6 months after the divorce became final, I started noticing the gap widening. Marcus showed up to my apartment one Friday with the latest iPhone, the expensive model that had just been released. Noah still carried the same cracked phone from 2 years ago, the screen so damaged I could barely see his home screen. I sent Diane a text message asking about it. Her response came 3 hours later, short and dismissive. Trevor had helped with Marcus. Noah did not need a new phone yet. Trevor. That name landed like a punch to my gut. Who was Trevor to decide what my son needed? When had he become part of this equation? I sat in my truck in the parking lot of a grocery store, staring at that text message, feeling the first real wave of anger building inside me. But I still did not act. I told myself to stay calm, to not rock the boat, to trust that Diane knew what she was doing. That was my second massive mistake. The truth started revealing itself in pieces like a puzzle I had been avoiding for too long. 3 months after that text message about the phones, I picked up Marcus and Noah for our weekend together. It was a Friday evening in March, the kind of cool spring night that smelled like rain and fresh-cut grass. I pulled up to Diane's house right at 6 p.m. Like always. Marcus came out of a black truck I did not recognize, laughing and carrying a brand-new baseball jacket with leather sleeves. A man I assumed was Trevor gave him a fist bump before driving away. Noah walked out of the house alone, his backpack hanging off one shoulder, the fabric torn at the seam. The contrast hit me like cold water. During the drive back to my apartment, Marcus talked non-stop about batting practice. Trevor had taken him to some elite training facility across town. The coach there said Marcus might make the varsity team next year as a sophomore, which almost never happened. Marcus was buzzing with excitement, his voice filling the entire truck. Noah sat in the back seat, staring out the window, saying nothing. That evening I cooked spaghetti and meatballs, one of the few dishes I had mastered since living alone. We sat around my small dining table. Marcus continued talking about baseball, about Trevor, about plans for summer training camps. Noah pushed pasta around his plate, taking small bites, his eyes distant. I tried to bring him into the conversation. I asked how his week had been. "Fine." That was all he said. One word delivered in a flat tone that made my chest ache. Marcus laughed and made some comment about Noah still doing that nerdy robotics thing. "Nobody cared about that," he said. Noah bit his lower lip and looked down at his plate, his knuckles white around his fork. I opened my mouth to defend him, to tell Marcus that was not okay, but the words stuck in my throat. The moment passed. Noah excused himself and went to his room. I could not sleep that night. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every interaction from the past year. The birthday parties, the phones, the way Marcus always had new clothes, while Noah wore the same faded shirts. The way Diane talked about Marcus like he was destined for greatness, while barely mentioning Noah at all. Around 3 a.m., I made a decision. I needed to know exactly what was happening in that house. The next morning I took Marcus to his soccer practice and came back home with Noah, just the two of us. I made hot chocolate, the kind with extra marshmallows that Noah used to love when he was little. We sat on my worn couch, the morning sun streaming through the windows. I turned to face him and asked him to talk to me. I asked what was really going on. He resisted at first, shook his head, said everything was fine. But I kept pushing gently, telling him I could see something was wrong, that I was his father, and I needed to know. Finally the dam broke. Tears started rolling down his face, and words came pouring out like he had been holding them in for years. Noah told me everything. Diane constantly said he was too much like me, that he had no ambition, no drive. Trevor only paid attention to Marcus, always telling him he had potential, that he was going somewhere in life. Marcus got to go to movies to restaurants on weekend trips with Diane and Trevor. Noah stayed home with a babysitter or got dropped off at his grandparents' house. His robotics club had won the regional competition last month, a huge achievement, but Diane had not shown up. She said she had a work obligation. Later, Noah found out she had been at one of Marcus's baseball games instead. The detail that destroyed me came near the end of his confession. Noah had asked Diane about college, once talking excitedly about engineering programs. Diane told him to focus on realistic things instead of robotics. She said college was expensive, and maybe he should consider trade school like me. She used my career, something I had always been proud of, as a weapon to make my son feel small. Then Noah told me about Marcus's old laptop. When Marcus got his new one for his birthday, Noah asked if he could have the old laptop for coding and programming. Diane said no. Trevor had already taken it for his nephew. A stranger's kid got my son's hand-me-downs, while Noah got nothing. I sat there on that couch, listening to my 13-year-old son describe feeling invisible in his own home, and rage burned through my veins like nothing I had ever felt. This was not just neglect. This was intentional. This was cruelty. That afternoon I called Gary. He had been our neighbor for 8 years before the divorce and still lived on the same street as Diane. We had stayed friends, grabbing beers occasionally, talking about work and life. I asked him what he had seen. There was a long pause on the phone. Then Gary said he had been wanting to tell me for months, but did not want to interfere in family business. Gary described what he observed almost daily. Trevor had moved in with Diane 3 months ago. He treated Marcus like his own son. They went fishing together, attended baseball games, worked on Trevor's car in the garage. Noah Gary said he barely saw him. The kid was like a ghost in that house, always in his room, always alone. I asked Gary if he could document what he saw. He understood immediately. Over the next week, Gary sent me photographs that made me want to put my fist through a wall. Marcus, Diane, and Trevor at an upscale restaurant, all 3 of them dressed nicely, smiling at the camera. Noah was not there. Another photo showed Marcus wearing a brand new hoodie and expensive Nike sneakers. Then there was one photo that broke something inside me. Noah standing outside the garage, wearing an old faded shirt, looking in at Marcus and Trevor working on a car together. The expression on Noah's face was pure loneliness. But the worst discovery came from social media. Diane and I were still friends on Facebook. I had not checked her profile in months, maybe longer. That night I scrolled through her page. She had posted 47 pictures in the past 2 months. Every single one featured Marcus. Marcus at baseball practice. Marcus getting an award at school. Marcus and Trevor at a basketball game. The captions gushed with pride. So proud of my star athlete. Marcus got accepted to elite summer baseball camp. Trevor and Marcus, my 2 champions. I scrolled back through an entire year of posts. Not one photograph of Noah. Not one mention of his name. Not one acknowledgement that he existed. My ex-wife had erased our younger son from her life, at least the version of her life she showed the world. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone. It was 11 p.m., but I did not care. I called Diane. She answered on the 4th ring, her voice annoyed. I asked her straight out why Noah was not in any of her photos. She got defensive immediately, asking what I was talking about, saying she posted what she wanted. I told her I had counted. 43 pictures of Marcus in the past month. 0 of Noah. Diane went quiet for a moment. Then she said Marcus was just more photogenic. Noah was always sulking. The excuse was so weak, so transparent, it made me angrier. I told her Noah was 13 years old. He was our son. Her response came fast and cold. Our son. She said Marcus took after her. Noah was just like me. Then she said the word that changed everything. Mediocre. She called our son mediocre. I could not speak. The phone felt heavy in my hand. The room spun slightly. In that single word I understood everything. Diane had not just stopped loving me. She had transferred that contempt to Noah because he reminded her of me. Our son was paying the price for our failed marriage, suffering because he shared my traits, my quieter personality, my different kind of intelligence. I told her this ended now. Then I hung up. I sat in my dark living room until sunrise planning my next move. I was done being passive. I was done trusting that things would work themselves out. My son needed me to fight, and that was exactly what I was going to do. Monday morning I called a family law attorney. Her name was Patricia Lynn, and she came highly recommended by a coworker who had been through a difficult custody battle. I laid out everything for her. The unequal treatment, the photographs, the social media evidence, the witness statements I could get from Gary and others. Patricia listened carefully, taking notes, asking clarifying questions. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and gave me a serious look. She said I had a strong case for emotional neglect, but I needed to be prepared for a fight. Custody modifications were never easy, especially when the mother had primary custody and no history of physical abuse. But the evidence I had was compelling. The social media alone painted a damning picture. We scheduled another meeting for the end of the week to begin filing paperwork. That same day I sat Marcus and Noah down in my living room. I told them things were going to change. I was filing for joint custody, 50-50 split. Marcus looked confused, almost defensive. He asked why. He said Mom was doing fine. I looked at him carefully and asked when the last time was that he and Noah had done something together with their mother. Just the three of them, no Trevor involved. Marcus opened his mouth to answer, then stopped. He thought about it, his eyebrows drawing together. He could not remember. I watched realization slowly dawn on his face. Noah sat beside him looking at me with something I had not seen in his eyes for months. Hope. The next 2 weeks blurred together in a storm of paperwork meetings and preparation. Patricia and I built a comprehensive case. I provided screenshots of every social media post. Gary agreed to give a written statement and testify if needed. I even reached out to Noah's robotics coach, a woman named Miss Sandra Chen. Wait, no, not Chen. Let me correct that. His coach was Miss Sandra Park. She immediately agreed to write a letter on Noah's behalf. In it, she described him as exceptionally talented, one of the most creative young minds she had worked with in 15 years of teaching. She also noted that he lacked parental support and often seemed withdrawn during competitions and presentations. Everything came to a head in the mediation session. Patricia had advised trying mediation before going to court. It was faster, less expensive, and less traumatic for the kids. Diane agreed, probably because her own attorney recommended the same thing. We met at a law office downtown on a Wednesday afternoon. The room was sterile and professional, with a long conference table and uncomfortable chairs. Diane arrived wearing an expensive suit I had never seen before, her hair professionally styled. Trevor waited in the lobby. My stomach churned, seeing her like that, so put together, so confident. I wore a simple button-down shirt and slacks, carrying a folder thick with evidence. The mediator, an older man named Robert, explained the process. Each side would present their concerns, and we would work toward an agreement that served the children's best interests. I went first. I laid out the pattern methodically. The birthday parties, and their massive cost difference, the phones, the clothes, the social media erasure. I showed printed screenshots where Diane gushed about Marcus but never mentioned Noah. I read aloud the text message where she called Noah mediocre. The room went completely silent. Robert turned to Diane and asked her to explain. She shifted in her seat, her confidence cracking slightly. She insisted she loved both sons equally. I was exaggerating, she said. Noah was just more introverted. He did not want attention. Marcus had more extracurricular activities, so naturally he required more resources. I cut in my voice, steady but hard. Noah won a regional robotics competition. You did not even show up. Diane's face flushed. She said she had been busy with Marcus's tournament. The mediator raised his eyebrows. The implication was clear. She had made a choice, and it was not for Noah. Patricia presented our proposal. 50-50 custody, alternating weeks. Child support would be split equally, with both parents contributing to each child's individual needs and activities. Additionally, Diane would need to participate in family therapy with Noah. The goal was not punishment but healing. Diane rejected it immediately. She said she absolutely would not have some therapist tell her how to raise her children. I leaned forward, making eye contact with her across the table. I told her if she refused, we would go to court. I would make sure the judge saw every single photograph she never posted of Noah, every opportunity she gave Marcus that Noah was denied, every piece of evidence showing her emotional neglect. Diane looked at her attorney, a thin man in wire-rimmed glasses, who had been scribbling notes throughout the meeting. They requested a private consultation. 30 minutes later, they returned. Diane agreed to the terms. The relief that washed over me was so intense I almost could not breathe. The first week Noah stayed with me under the new arrangement felt like starting over. I had already prepared his room, setting up a proper desk for his computer and coding work, installing shelves for his robotics parts and tools. When he walked in with his suitcase, I told him this was his home. Not just a place he visited, his home. I enrolled Noah in a summer robotics camp at the local community college. It cost $600. Money I did not easily have. But I cut back on my own expenses without hesitation. We went shopping for a proper laptop together. Not used, not a hand-me-down, but a new machine, with the processing power he needed for programming and design. When the sales clerk rang it up and told us the total, Noah looked at me with wide eyes. I squeezed his shoulder and told him he needed proper tools for his talent. I attended every single robotics club meeting and presentation. I sat in those metal folding chairs in the high school cafeteria, watching Noah explain circuit boards and programming logic to judges and parents, and my heart swelled with pride. After each event, we would go get burgers or pizza, and I would ask him about his projects, his ideas, his dreams. For the first time in years, Noah talked freely. His voice got stronger, his shoulders straightened. Marcus struggled with the change initially. He was used to being the center of attention, the golden child. Splitting time between homes meant less time with Trevor, fewer special outings, more equality. But my older son was not a bad kid. He just had not been shown a better way. One evening, about 6 weeks into the new arrangement, Marcus knocked on Noah's bedroom door. I was in the hallway and heard their conversation. Marcus told Noah he was sorry for not sticking up for him. Noah said it was okay. Marcus said no, it was not okay. Then he asked if Noah wanted to help him with his math homework, acknowledging that Noah was better at that stuff. I heard Noah's surprised laugh, and then the sound of them talking, actually talking like brothers should. I walked away with tears in my eyes. 3 months into joint custody, the transformation in Noah was remarkable. His grades, which had been good, but not exceptional, jumped to straight A's. He got elected team captain of his robotics club. Most importantly, he smiled. Real smiles, not the sad, forced ones from before. He made jokes. He talked about the future with excitement. Diane's response was slower. During her weeks with the boys, she still favored Marcus at first. Old habits die hard. But the family therapy sessions gradually made a difference. The therapist, Dr. Elizabeth Morgan, was skilled at cutting through defenses and making people confront uncomfortable truths. In one session that Noah told me about later, Diane broke down crying. She admitted she had seen Noah as a reminder of the marriage she considered a failure. She had taken her resentment toward me out on an innocent child. Noah, with courage that amazed me, told her he just wanted her to be proud of him. Diane looked at him with tears streaming down her face and said she was proud of him. She apologized for taking so long to show it. It was not a complete healing, not yet, but it was a start. 4 months after the custody change, I organized a family dinner at my apartment. I wanted to create a new tradition, something that belonged to all of us. Noah volunteered to cook, having recently learned to make lasagna from a YouTube video. Marcus set up the dining table, even finding candles in my kitchen drawer and lighting them. We sat down together, the three of us, and it felt right. We ate and laughed and talked about everything and nothing. Marcus teased Noah about a girl in his robotics club. Noah threw a balled-up napkin at him. I watched my sons being brothers, really being brothers, and thought to myself that this was what winning looked like. 1 year has passed since that terrible mediation session, since I decided to fight for my son instead of staying silent. Noah is 14 now, taller, more confident, walking through the world like he finally believes he belongs in it. Last month, he received a scholarship to attend a prestigious science summer program at the state university. When the acceptance letter arrived, he called me at work, his voice shaking with excitement. I left the construction site immediately and drove to pick him up. We celebrated with ice cream and spent the evening talking about all the projects he wanted to work on. Marcus is 16 now, still playing baseball, still passionate about sports. But something shifted in him too. He supports Noah more actively now, showing up to robotics competitions, asking genuine questions about his brother's work, defending him when other kids make fun of the tech nerds. Last week, Marcus convinced Noah to come to one of his games. Noah sat in the bleachers wearing one of Marcus's spare team shirts, and when Marcus hit a double, Noah stood up and cheered louder than anyone else. After the game, Marcus jogged over and hugged him. Brothers. Diane has continued therapy and has made real progress in rebuilding her relationship with Noah. It is not perfect. Some wounds take years to heal, but she makes effort now. She attends his robotics events. She posts photos of both boys on social media. She apologizes when she slips back into old patterns. Trevor is no longer in the picture. That relationship ended on its own, and honestly, it has nothing to do with this story. What matters is that Diane is learning to be a better mother to both her sons. This morning I sat on my apartment porch with my coffee watching Noah and Marcus shoot baskets in the driveway. The sun was bright, the air warm with approaching summer. Marcus trash talked while Noah laughed and actually made a shot that swished cleanly through the net. They both froze in surprise, then erupted in celebration. I sipped my coffee and thought about the journey that brought us here. It was not easy. There were nights I wanted to give up, moments when fighting felt too exhausting, too complicated, too likely to blow up in my face. The legal process was draining. The conversations with Diane were brutal. Watching Noah struggle through therapy, confronting his pain, reliving his feelings of worthlessness, nearly broke me. But every single second of difficulty was worth it for this moment right here. For seeing my son smile, for watching my boys be brothers, for knowing I did not stay silent when it mattered most. I learned something crucial through all of this. Being a parent is not about picking favorites or dividing your love into unequal portions. It is about seeing each child for who they truly are and helping them shine in their own unique way. Marcus did not need less love or attention. Noah just needed more. And I should have fought for that balance much sooner than I did. I also learned that silence does not protect your children. I spent too long being afraid of conflict, afraid of rocking the boat, afraid of making things worse. But inaction is its own kind of harm. Sometimes love means having uncomfortable conversations. Sometimes it means standing up and demanding better, even when it costs you peace or money or sleep. Action protects your children. Silence just lets them suffer. Forgiveness has been another unexpected lesson. Diane hurt Noah badly. What she did was wrong, and I will never pretend otherwise. But she is working to make amends, attending therapy, changing her behavior, rebuilding trust. I do not hold on to anger anymore. Anger is heavy, and carrying it around only hurts the person holding it. Diane is trying to be better, and that effort matters for my sons. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting what happened. It means freeing yourself and giving others the chance to grow. Finally, Noah taught me that worth is not measured by trophies or popularity or how loud you are in a room. Sometimes the quietest people have the loudest dreams, the deepest thoughts, the most profound impact. Society tells us that extroverted, athletic, charismatic kids are the ones who matter most. But that is garbage. Every child has value. Every child deserves to be seen and celebrated for who they are, not who we wish they would be. If you are a parent watching this, I want you to do something tonight. Look at your kids. Really look at them. Are you seeing them for who they actually are, or are you seeing them through the lens of your own expectations and disappointments? Are you giving each child what they need, or are you dividing your attention based on who is easier, who? reflects better on you, who fits your vision of success. Because every child deserves to feel like they matter, every single one. Not just the loud ones, not just the athletic ones, not just the ones who make you look good on social media, all of them. And if you are not giving that to your kids, if you are playing favorites or overlooking someone, I am telling you right now to stop. Stop before the damage becomes permanent. Stop before your child internalizes the message that they are not enough. Stop before they stop believing they matter. It is never too late to change. Diane changed. I changed. You can too. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Have you watched someone play favorites with their kids? What did you do about it? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, if it made you think about your own family dynamics, hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel if you want more real stories about the messy, complicated, beautiful work of being human and being a parent. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for caring about Noah and Marcus and about all the invisible kids out there who just need someone to fight for them. I hope you go hug your children tonight, all of them equally, and tell them they matter. Because they do. Every single one of them does. Take care of yourselves and each other.